This video was helped by one of my friends and former guest on the channel, mcrafter3000. Thank you so much for lending me some of the parts for this deck. You know, you and I, we have argued so much about V-Series, we've debated about it up and down, we've spent thousands of millions of yen on this format, and we've had a lot of differing opinions on it for the last 6 years. 6 years? Six years. But you know something? I'm sticking to them. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mrs. Ford here. Today I am back to cover Dragonic Waterfall in V 2024. Because the last Raptors video actually did much better than I expected and proved to me that there's still some form of a V audience out there at my channel. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep doing these as long as you guys want to see them. Especially because at the moment of recording, we've not actually received the strategy presentations for September and December. So we have no idea if they are going to give us any V products, you know, at all, or are they just going to can V, or are they going to can P, because, you know, the premium deck sets did terribly as well here in Japan. So generally speaking, every alternate format in Vanguard is really bad right now. And there's plenty of talks online like Twitter about how they want to revitalize premium. But frankly, you can't really write yourselves out of a corner when, you know, all you do now is go first, dice roll, spam gifts, you know, superior strike, beat down, you know, and just laugh and stuff, like, and the over trigger, yeah. So why not we take a step back from everything that we've, you know, been going through, and let's talk about one of these pioneers, which would be Dragonic Waterfall. Dragonic Waterfall is from VBT01, and he's actually, if I'm not mistaken, he's like one of the first VRs. Yeah, he's like one of the first VRs ever. And the thing is that today's video, I wanted to kind of use him as a case study to talk about older decks and ask the question, are they still relevant 6 years later? Can you still play them in V-Series? Competitively, the answer is no. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, because this deck has neither gotten direct support, neither has most decks, and we don't even have a ban list. So yeah, true, you can't play this competitively, but I've actually made a pretty fun deck that can play very turbo, like pretty aggressively, with a good tempo with Kagero staples, and it aims to end the game on turn 4, generally with just the Dragonic Waterfall. And I'm going to use that alongside some other tempo cards, like for example Blazing Flare Dragon, who is actually a card I'm a big fan of, and I've even played him in Shadowverse. I think it's pretty fun. But with all that out of the way, that's mainly what I'm going to talk about today. I know some people will be asking me, so I just want to address this. Why am I not using Dauntless Drive Dragon? The thing about Dauntless Drive Dragon is that he actually, well, he gives you an additional attack to lay up into Waterfall. Dragonic Waterfall only uses his effects for one battle, which means the second battle or the other battle that you don't trigger Waterfall's effect, it's kind of worthless. And Dauntless Drive, for those of you who've seen my previous videos on Dauntless Drive, in fact, I think I'll link one of them in the description below. I'll put my Rebirth video, so you can check it out as well. Generally speaking, decks that play Dauntless Drive go into a hand deficit, so that means you don't actually get to keep advantage at all. You generally just keep discarding cards for just one additional attack, which is really bad, especially given that, you know, this is not really a deck in the formal sense. It's mostly just using a lot of staples to beat down. And I just wanted to make sure that you could tempo out the games on turn 2 and 3 so that your turn 4 Waterfall would be pretty effective. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. If you like to see these kind of, you know, decks, if you want me to keep doing V, just like this video and share it and leave a comment. It means a lot to me, really. But you know, if you don't want to, then just don't support this video, I guess, lol. But as long as there's at least one of you still enjoying these kinds of videos, then I'm happy to keep making them, because I wanted to talk about Waterfall before we even get any announcement, because I never had a chance to talk about a format's oldest deck, you know, so why not? Our grade 3s, we play 4 copies of Dragonic Waterfall, 4 copies of Blazing Flare Dragon, and then 2 copies of Dragonite Janat. So yeah, pretty interesting lineup. We're playing 10 grade 3s, it's pretty heavy. For those of you who know what Dragonic Waterfall skill is, I'll read it to you. He's originally a manga card, which is why they brought him straight to V-Series, and yeah, I'm a huge manga sucker. For those of you who know me personally, I'm a huge fan of Vanguard manga, so seeing something like this, brilliant. His skill is when placed on a Vanguard circle, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 greater rear guards and just retire it. most people would scoff at such a skill. You know, it's kind of worthless. Why would you want a free retire? It's just an on-page retire. But it swings the tempo of the game pretty heavily, considering how 2010 Vanguard was designed. But although this skill now is obviously very overshadowed, and the fact that Waterfall just does this and one other skill that's only applicable on turn 4, it's still pretty fun. It's still pretty good enough to me. I mean, it's a pretty cool play snipe. And then if you generally have a Waterfall from turn 4 onwards, and you can reach one turn 5, turn 6, and turn 7, you, generally speaking, will be able to keep getting free retires no matter what. And, retiring is kind of Kagero's gig for those of you who's not seen V or P before. Yeah, so it's nice to have a free retire stuck onto a body like that. It's kind of like Battle Cry. Then the second skill is that when this unit attacks, Soul Blast a grade 3. This unit gains 10,000 power to critical, and your opponent cannot call sentinels to the Guardian Circle from their hand. Obviously, this is built to be, as part of V-Series, a Sentinel restrict. And that's just pretty fun. The idea is just to cheese your opponent with damage and just put off tanking the crit, slash him, and hope he dies. And that's still pretty fun. But of course, this skill is very slow. This deck is very slow because it's built around turn 4 boss. And Dragonic Waterfall sadly never got direct support. Kagero, for those of you who know your V history, mainly Dragonic Overlord was the beater, Waterfall was the finisher, and then they moved away to other stuff like your Novel V, which didn't really do very well, even though it was locked to Dragonic Overlord. And then it was just completely overhauled by Dragonic Overlord, the Great, and then the End. And then we just never saw generic Kagero do well anymore. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video. I could just have taken the time to do another Blademaster. I do Blademaster once a year on this channel, but I told myself that it would be more interesting if I could cover somebody else who I've never talked about on this channel, which I chose Waterfall, because it would be pretty funny, right? The other grade 3 so far that we're talking about is Dragonic Jatnat. Jatnat is somebody who I used to play Dragonic Blademaster, and he's still pretty alright as well. If your opponent doesn't have any rearguards, he gains 10 on the Vanguard rearguard circle, and then his second skill is to counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it. If you have 2 grade 3 or greater units on the board, you can counterblast 1 and retire 2 instead of 1. Strangely, ever since VBTO 8, while half the set was dedicated to the N and the Cross, the other half was dedicated to Dragonic Blademaster and generic Kagero. And for some reason, generic Kagero really loved their V grade 3s, and then they decided to drill this mentality into our head by using 6 V collections in a row to reduce the amount of generic support they could give out to Kagero by printing a total of 8 generic grade 3 bosses that are all retrains. I don't know why, I don't know how. To this day, whatever Mori P was smoking, I don't even want to try it, because it was just a really weird era for Vanguard. But it left us with remnants like this card, where grade 3 supporting decks was interesting. So yeah, seeing that Dragonic Waterfall is literally a deck themed around grade 3s in the soul, I just wanted to play an extra copy so that I could get more grade 3s in rotation for my soul charge. Soul charge 4, Blazing Flare Dragon. And I've actually something really interesting for this video. Hold on. I actually keep this guy. Can you see him? Yeah, I actually keep this guy in my office. So for the uninitiated, this is Blazing Flare Dragon, but I'm not going to call this a Blazing Flare Dragon deck profile because, it's clearly not. Blazing Flare Dragon used to be part of a Riot Chain. He used to be with, Gatling Claw Dragon, Iron Tail Dragon, what's the guy called? The last guy? The Claw Dragon. Burning Core. No, Burning Core? I can't remember exactly. I'm saying this completely off script. But yeah, it's a pretty fun guy, and I have his little boss, so cool. I'll just put him here. So what's his skills? His skills is that on the Vanguard Rearguard Circle, yes, you can Soul Blast 1 card, or any amount that you want, minimum 1. For the number of cards that you Soul Blast, you can choose the equal number of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. If you Soul Blasted 5 or more, and this unit's on the Vanguard Circle, you destroy your opponent's markers as well. Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? Marker burn! Yeah, and it's nice. It trades 1 soul to 1 retire. It's pretty neat. So you can just basically have a pocket. It's literally a pocket Dragonic Blademaster in the sense that, you just keep this guy as your rearguard. You can just turn your soul into free retire. And he's basically a really good first ride because of stuff like that. But he's generally very versatile, which is probably why he's one of the few Kagero generic grade 3s that's actually sold out. Yeah, I had to borrow this for a reason. The second skill is that, when this unit attacks, you can soul charge 1. If your opponent's grade 3 or greater, he gains 10,000 power. So yeah, on swing soul charge is pretty neat, and I kind of want to cheese into, a grade 3 into the soul. But if you're not looking at that on the hard route, it is a potential 23k beater. And it just trades free soul for free burns. You generally just can't say no to that because this is a soul based deck. I don't know what a full Blazing Flare Dragon team deck would look like. I don't think that's such a thing in V, but this is probably the closest I'll get to it. And you know what? I'm really happy I got to crack this little guy out just for the video. So yeah, I did play him in Shadowverse, but deck's pretty bad. But I did try Shadowverse and I did play him again, so it was pretty nice. But enough fanboying about him, because what are the chances he's gonna be added to V-Series, right? Do you think he'll be added to V-Series? No? No. He says no. Alright, let's move on to the grade 2s. The grade 2s, we will cover 3 copies of Turret Cannon Dragon, 4 copies of Breath Dragon, and then 4 copies of By Attack Dragon. All these are pretty contemporary staples for V-Series, so you should know them by now as long as you've been playing Kagero in any alternate format. By Attack Dragon is, he's outright fixer from 2023 and someone I did cover in my Blademaster V deck profile, so I will link that video in the description so you can get a better update. But he's still, in my opinion, the best generic that Kagero even has. He has the same right fixer skill, which you should know by now if you've played any alternate format for 2 years. And it's nice because he can fix you up with any grade 2 or less. Yeah, any grade 2 or less card, which this deck does have quite a lot that you do want to look for to tempo. Not only that though, if you choose to keep By Attack Dragon as is, he will reward you with an even better skill. But it kind of feels like he's a smaller version of Blazing Flare Dragon, and you'll see why. When this unit attacks while boosted, Soul Blast 1, you can choose a column of your opponent and retire all the rear guards in it. So it gets past resist, I believe, because you don't choose. But the fact that it's just basically a Perdition Dragon, you can snipe off a whole column, is pretty impressive in my opinion. But he doesn't help in the power department. To be fair, most of this deck doesn't really help in the power department. So it's mostly just playing aggro control. You throw these guys on the board, swing, swing, swing. And what do you do with them? You can play stuff like Breath Dragon. Breath Dragon, when this unit is rolled upon, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. If you cannot retire, draw 1 card. So it's basically either a free snipe on right, or it's a free draw if you can't. Sounds like the Blaster Blade. Is that where they get the idea from? And at the end of the battle that is unit attack, if your opponent has a unit that was retired this turn, you can also retire this guy and draw a card. Breath Dragon is played in this deck because, Breath Dragon is generally just played in every V Kagero deck that doesn't know what else to put in the deck. Because this guy is basically just a walking draw cycle card. Yeah, this is the progenitor of a cycle card if you think about it. Alright, draw. Attack, draw. It's just draw because you just want to burn through the deck quickly and just cycle your pieces, throwing out bodies like this for fast aggression. And that's exactly Breath Dragon. Turret Cannon, on the other hand, is someone I've been struggling with, but I do think he's worth putting in this deck because 1, we don't have that many better options, and 2, he's still not that bad. Act on the Vanguard Regular Circle once per turn, count last 1, choose one of your normal units and tuck it to the bottom of your deck. Choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or lesser rear guards and retire it. And then when you retire it, you have 4 or less cards in your hand, you can draw a card. Yes, this was obviously meant for Dragonic Overlord Cross, but realistically speaking, V Kagero doesn't have great hand size. So you can use this for a draw 1 if you think about it. But because this is generally only used when you're on the back foot, I won't really recommend it. But it is not bad, especially given in the current V scenario where some people will try and early rush you as hard as possible. You want to throw a lot of your early Guardians out, which would lead you to having a small hand size. Turret Cannon is a great way to punch back and build back the advantage right for your tempo. Moving on to our grade 1s. Our grade 1s, we have a lot, as with every Kagero deck in V right now. So stick with me. We play 4 copies of this guy, 4 copies of Lava Flow, and then we play 4 copies of Airmo. Lava Flow is an eternal rival, best friend, and most hated card of mine because he is the V Grade 3 Searcher in V Kagero. standard skill, play some Vanguard Rearguard Circle, look at top 5, add a grade 3 from one end to your hand, and if you add one, discard one, and if you have more Rearguards than the opponent, Blaze, this unit gains 5000 power. It's a good 13k bit stick, it's a good way to search. Generally speaking, nothing else to say about Lava Flow. This is probably the one card that's non-contested in most Kagero decks, and why he used to be $40 back in the day. Can you imagine now people are complaining that D-Series staples are now costing 3,000 yen when we used to have this piece of shit costing 5,000 yen? Like, this is for one nation, by the way. Sorry, one clan, aka one deck, Dragonic Overlord. Man, this game used to be more expensive, but people always seem to forget that. I don't know why. Moving on, we have Ermo. Ermo is also from set 1, so he's probably the only guy next to Dragonic Waterfall who is a survivor in this deck, so congrats Ermo. When this unit boosts, he gains 3000 power. Cool. And when your opponent's Rearguard's retired, you can retire this unit, draw 1 and counter charge 1. Again, another cycle card, brilliant, and it gives you counter charge, which you don't really need in this deck, but I think it's still nice to carry around. Last off is this guy, also another peak generic in Kagero. You do have to play him because he's not bad. When rolled upon, you can look at the top 5 cards of the deck, add a grade 3 from among them to your hand and shuffle the deck. You can with this effect though, which does suck, but you know, it's still a pretty good first right. And when you place on a Rearguard Circle, count +1, so +1, choose from your opponent's back row Rearguards and retire it. If you do, draw a card. Sorry, you can draw a card regardless, then you just choose from your opponent's back row Rearguards and retire it. Okay, that's pretty nice. It is a cycle card, again, and then you know, you also get a free snipe. So you notice a lot of the cards in this deck is just snipe, draw, snipe, draw, snipe, draw. Very simple. It's very pure-hearted Kagero. It's not like your modern bullshit. Because that's just generally what Kagero generics do. Grade 0, we just play Wyvern Kid Ragla. We don't really have a preference for starter. I do wish that, you know, in the VMP collection 2023, they did give us a new Kagero starter, but they didn't. It's alright. For Bari's Bari. For Hugot's, like I said, you want to stop early aggression, and this is probably the best way you can do it. And then we just play 8 crits. Alright. And that's gonna wrap up my Dragonic Waterfall deck profile in V 2024 / Blazing Flare Dragon, if you want to be political. Honestly though, like I said, this is meant to be completely of a fun deck. I built this strictly for the mentality of I just want to play these cards again. I wanted to play Waterfall, and then I realized, wow, this gives me a beautiful chance to talk about Blazing Flare. So I was like, sure, let's do it then. This deck is by no means meta relevant, yet alone competitive. I think that's definitely the wrong message to take away from this. This is definitely not it. But it is very fun. It is cool that you can play these kind of decks retroactively in in V, and you can still have quite a lot of fun as long as you're just not playing against someone using a tier 1 deck. I'm serious, you can even play this against tier 2 decks in V, which I don't know what do you even count as tier 2 nowadays. But yeah, I have enjoyed playing this deck quite a fair bit, and that's why I wanted to talk to it. I wanted to talk to you about it. You know, in this series, yes, they also have a lot of fun decks at lower ranks. I don't think anyone denies that. But the gap between some of these decks in this series can occasionally feel a bit far. But in V-Series, I generally don't feel that. At least for the mid-tiers, you never really feel like you're completely drowning. Unless, of course, you're fighting Gurgit, then you deserve to die, because, you know, you're fighting Gurgit. But other than that, though, I've really enjoyed playing it, and I still think it's for certain nostalgic cards that you still don't have in D, yet alone will ever have in D. So yeah, it is still pretty nice for me to play cards that are really from the oldest days of Vanguard. And they don't feel like complete trash. You know, you can even play modern D-Series decks like Rotovisor or Eugene at the point of this recording, and sometimes they just feel really bad. Felty Rosa even. But no, I would say for this deck, I never really had a game where I stood out of frustration and walked away. I was still able to play through all my games really fine, and I won some of them even. So yeah, that's really about it. I'm really sorry last month I couldn't get a V-Series deck profile out because I was very busy with my Night Rose Encyclopedia. I'll put a link in the description for that for any one of you who's interested. Although this is a V-Series video, so I really don't blame you if you don't check that out. But if you do, I would be really appreciative about it. Other than that though, yeah, that's really about it. Thank you all so much for watching. at the point of this recording though, I still do plan to do V-Series decks as long as I can fit them to my schedule, but they are definitely not my priority at this point in time unless there is a huge V announcement in September or December. Then I will probably, be producing content about that if that's what the people want to see. But generally speaking, if by the end of this year there is no more there is no more V series, then I'll just produce V deck profiles till that end, and then I'll just stop there. But again, we'll see. I doubt they will kill one or even two formats for Vanguard, even though these games print tutorials are doing that. But I realistically, I just don't see that happening at this point. I'm willing to be completely wrong, but we'll see. We'll see. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.